Okay, Monday, August 29th. It's the end of the day. Going to recap today's action on the SPY and then look at a couple of other stocks as well and kind of show you what developed today and what is developing going forward. So you can see here in terms of the SPY, it ended up kind of this momentum shooter bar where we just kind of mostly paused on the day, but since at the very end of the day we failed, it looks like even though it's a slight green bar, we have kind of momentum shooter kind of action continuing down from this big red bar. So we'll look for follow through lower tomorrow. But overall, you can see it was generally a pause day. It came nowhere to approaching the midpoint of the prior day, so your bias was always going to be down. And let's just show you how it kind of developed if you were kind of trading. Obviously, not many opportunities here, but you wouldn't get hurt either. It was just one of those more or less pause days where you'll have to wait for better directional days ahead. But if you look at it here, I kind of discussed looking at the pre-market highs and lows, and this is what it ended up being between these two lines. And I discussed how, if you were going to start up to start the session, look for a kind of a quicker reversal to maybe try a short for continuation, on this big red bar. So the trade today, you can see that first bar certainly wasn't down, and then we kind of paused a little bit inside up. This was obviously the kind of the 2-1-2 reversal kind of bar where you would have attempted to go short, and it started down nicely. It kind of took out, that's always your first target, first bar low. You really thought it should have taken out this there got to be stops down there, but it actually never did it. And once it paused and kind of started up, you almost had to break even on this type of trade. And at that point, there was no real reversal, to just hold in here and then take another run down. It took out the intraday highs, and we just kind of paused all day and then closed a little bit red to give you that kind of that shooter looking bar on the daily chart. So overall, just you can see it's a big pause day overall from yesterday's big decline. And since we never, moved above the midpoint of yesterday, never really thinking long. The only long, structure would have been if we had some green up, orderly pull back to maybe the halfway point of that bar and then maybe try it up again. But even that, you're not really going to take long trades into this type of a day because there's not much, continuation expectations higher. So overall, just a broad day. What we're looking for tomorrow now, we're going to kind of monitor the kind of the midway point of today's bars. Again, aligns with that kind of pre-market high of yesterday. So somewhere in here, as long as we hold the midpoint of this bar, let's look for lower tomorrow. We haven't even begun to look at, approach some of that the targets I discussed on the opening video. If we can go lower and follow through, we still have this target here and this target here, and then the pivot target that's the weekly low down here. So we're kind of a 2-down week with the next weekly low down here. But let's see what happens. I mean, you never know. It's again going to apply. It depend on what opening price action does with the pre-market action. And if we look at just if I click on some of the stocks of the day just to see if you would have played any of them. I mean, you could just browsing through, like Amazon had a similar pattern where it kind of failed up and then just didn't break its low. Nvidia would have been a decent trade here. This one was more, a failure from the start that did move a little bit below its pre-market low. Other stocks like Tesla never really got going and reversed and couldn't really follow through much. Again, you got an hour's worth of trying to follow through here. So when it doesn't early in the session, you just got to kind of break even. Stocks like Netflix, there were a couple that started strong, came to the halfway point, but they never really crossed above the midpoint of the prior day. So they just kind of, they settled here doing not much. AMD wasn't a bad trade in terms of continuation. That was one more right out of the gates. The third bar got you short, so before the SPY, and it kind of worked its way down lower most of the day. And the only stocks I see on the upside, I was kind of browsing through my list, just kind of looking at the stocks that change up, were kind of the oil. So if you look at like Occidental Petroleum, at least that had a kind of a big green bar above the midpoint of the prior day right out of the gate. So it got here, one push up, paused, couldn't really take out that high, but it kind of tried. So this and a couple of others were the only stocks that even had upside action today, but mostly pause day overall. Get back to the SPY. Let me just type that in. We will see how it opens tomorrow, expecting lower still. Until we can get, reversals above the midpoint of a prior day. In terms of the weekly chart, we still have to we have a way, even if we go up a little bit, we're still not going to turn this week up until we go above the midpoint of this prior week. So in other words, we have a 2-down week. To get a failure, we'd have to go to above the midpoint of the prior week. So even if we get like a little bit of an update tomorrow, then Wednesday could be a great sell day. So at some point here, we're looking for, continuation lower. It's just a matter of, does it happen on this momentum shooter bar, or does this day, next Tuesday, pause as well, but not quite get up there? And if we should get some kind of strong rally that goes above the midpoint of the prior week, then we can start looking long. So let's see what happens. But today, overall, big pause day in the market. You can see a little green, little bar here that kind of had more of a momentum. It's like a shooter bar, which is like when it happens after a big down day, that's kind of a momentum bar showing the selling was here. They weren't really ready to buy yet, and now they want more selling. So that's what it's at least showing. We'll see how it opens tomorrow.